game.
Now, could we be just 2 or 3 years away from curing some forms of cancer? One man who thinks so is Niven Narain, a clinical scientist by training. He's also the president of Berg, a small Boston-based biotech firm.
Well, the firm is funded by billionaire real estate tycoon Berg, and the company uses artificial intelligence to pinpoint the biological differences between diseased and healthy tissue. Now, the supercomputer can make calculations and examine differences that would take a human researcher years to work out.
6 years of data crunching has led to the development of Berg's first drug, which is now in clinical trials. The drug acts by changing how the cancer cells function and killing them off naturally, without the need for harmful and expensive therapies such as chemotherapy and radiotherapy.
Well, Berg says their approach cuts drug costs and discovery time in half. So I started by asking him why the current traditional system of drugs research does take so long and costs so much.
Process of discovering and developing drugs and pharmaceuticals is really a process that takes on average 12 to 14 years and cost on average $2.6 billion. So if we think about the sustainability of that model, that's not exactly the most efficient. So what Berg is doing is we're going back and to a back to biology approach, flipping that entire model upside down, and saying instead of discovering drugs based on chemical screening, let's take a look at how the patient biology operates and use artificial intelligence, which is the merging of biology with technology to truly understand patients and discover drugs in half the time and at least by half the cost.
Why has that not been done up until now?
I think because these technologies have really become abound in the past 10 years, and the traditional pharma model has been really entrenched by finding a drug target, and most pharmaceutical companies have massive drug libraries of chemical compounds. So this is a model that's been used for decades.
Now, you've got a number of drugs in clinical trial,
yes,
not approved yet. How do you know that this works?
With this system, we are able to map the patient responses and the patient biology very early in the process. So we're able to understand at a much earlier trigger point, do we see any adverse events with these drugs? So they're really key functional ways of assessing how patients are doing much earlier than having to wait under the traditional mold.
Money obviously is attracted towards the more high-profile diseases, medical problems, and the money goes into funding research and solutions for those. Is this a way of funding less well-known problems without the same sort of investment that you would need, the same sort of financial backing?
We're able to apply these technology across the spectrum of all diseases. These are not specific to rare diseases or specific to rare cancers. You know, these things are referred to as disruptive. I actually think these are eruptive because they're erupting this innovation from the smaller companies to create these products and then hand them off to the big pharmaceutical companies so that they can help to commercialize them into the market.
Traditionally, of course, financial backers would want results, they would want updates to keep the money coming in. You're in a fortunate position. You have the billionaire investor who's funding this. That must give you certain freedoms.
It allows us the freedom of innovation. It actually allows us, one of the hallmarks in science is that there is an amount of failure, there's an amount of iteration that's necessary to fine-tune a process. And what Carl Berg and Mitch Gorey has allowed us to do is go through these processes, fine-tune them without having an exact exit strategy, because this really for Carl is a vision of changing medicine. And what this is doing is providing the world, one, a better way of understanding individuals at a fundamental level, at a biological level, using that understanding to develop drugs that are more geared toward the real reasons why a disease has been an onset, and then productizing that information in a manner that allows for more efficiency, but at the end of the day, not taking 12 to 14 years and spending 2.6 billion.
What are you most excited about? What is the one thing that really excites you about working for
The
this
one
project?
single thing that I am absolutely most exciting about is we have put the power back into the patient. The age of medicine where patients have been dictated to, or where patients have had to been subject to the process of the way things are in the healthcare system, those days will be gone.
That was Niven Narain there, the president of Berg, speaking to me.